the first ever The VoiceCast. My name is Sonia Figueroa. And to my left, we have...
David Famous. How's it going, guys? Hey.
My name is Jonathan Reyes.
My name is Kaimana Kia Gonzalez.
Ooh, and we are your cast.
Kia, it's okay.
It's hyphenated?
No, it's Kia's in my middle name now. Kaimana Ashlyn Kia Gonzalez. You're welcome.
Oh, wow.
I didn't
we
know
got
it
the
worked
four.
that
We got
way.
the four
Wow.
names
That's
right
crazy.
now.
That's the whole government.
So this is our first season, which will have about 4 different episodes entitled, get ready for this, drum roll. Nice. Thank you, guys. Oh, I forgot. We have some drummers on here.
Kind of.
Actual
Summer
drummer.
Conversations.
There we go.
So we're bringing this to you live every couple weeks in the summer. We are super excited, right?
Yes,
Yes.
indeed.
Excited.
Fired
Very
up.
excited,
Let's do this.
caffeinated.
Caffeinated and excited. So here we go. We are going to begin with some sort of icebreaker game, if that is cool with you guys.
Yes.
It is
We
cool.
like to call this game, How Old is Too Old? So we shall begin. Playing Fortnite for more than 2 hours. How old
Take
is
it
too
away,
old?
Wow,
Jonathan.
we have a
This
specialist.
is not. See, so I have my
Wait, aren't
issue with
you
this question to
Ninja?
begin with
Feel
is
attacked.
it just my answer will go way deeper than the question
Go
intended.
Oh
deep.
my
Go ahead.
goodness.
I'm just
we
saying.
just
This is just
I'm
the
just saying,
icebreaker. We're
yeah.
not crying yet.
That's what I'm saying. Okay, so but all right, I'll give it my best shot. How old is too old?
More than 2 hours.
Okay, do I need to give a number for the age?
Yes, I need a
Yeah.
number.
That is how old?
Well, if I had to pick a number,
Yeah.
I would put it at probably 27. I'll just say 27.
For more than 2 hours. At 27, that's
I mean,
it.
there's a
You're
specific
done.
reason as to why I'm giving it that. I wish I could research like the age that people get married and have children, like on average, because that's the age I would give it to. I think it's more about
The
responsibility.
average
than,
man is 27. The average woman is 26 in America.
There you go.
Oh,
so
it's late.
27.
For
Not
women,
even-
it's
So
26.
See, I didn't know
gotta
that.
stop.
So
Okay.
right, women need to stop playing
There you go.
Fortnite for
Yeah,
more than 2
it's
hours a
really
day
the women
at
who are
26.
the ones who are playing Fortnite more
That's the
than,
problem?
than
They
anybody.
are
The
That's
numbers
the
suggest
issue
completely
happening in
otherwise,
today's
so we can
society.
say that, yeah.
Women need to get off video games.
Yeah,
And,
the numbers and facts don't support that
sorry.
at all.
Yeah.
How old
but
is too old to play Fortnite?
I would just say if you have a full-time job, you might be too old.
But what if you're like 35 and don't have a full-time job? It's okay. to
2
play
hours
for
a day.
2
Well, then
hours?
something else is wrong.
Yeah, I would just say like 2 hours is it's a good like, yeah.
So
2
what's the
hours.
age?
I don't know, 25, 24,
25?
23.
I
don't
would
know.
say
Find a
like
hobby.
it's conditional. I say the opposite of what David said. I think if you're like 18 and you have no job, you need to stop playing at all and you need to go get one.
That's
But I
true.
think that if you have a full-time job and that's what you want to do to like decompress, I don't understand it. I would rather sleep or watch like
What-
Friends.
Yeah.
Fortnite,
But-
I would say specifically.
Okay, Fortnite.
With that game
I don't know
specifically,
really
Yeah.
what that
playing, like,
is.
Super
I know
Smash
it's a
Bros.
game,
or
but I
Call
don't
of
know
Duty or
the.
something like that. Play as long as you feel like. Those are like
But Fortnite is
Oh,
more.
so you see that game as different?
Yes,
This
totally.
is not. I'm
Fortnite
just
is for
asking a
children.
question. Oh, okay.
It's
Well,
literally on the box. It says for kids.
Oh, I have no idea what Fortnite is. I don't really ever played a video game in my life except like Mario Brothers, like
That's a
Nintendo
good
back in the
one,
day.
though. Yeah,
So I
solid.
say like, I don't know, 10 is the age.
Okay.
And it has to be like summertime.
If you're a toddler,
Summertime, that's
you're
it.
too
10.
old.
10.
Yeah, like that's
Okay.
it. I don't know.
You are
Yeah.
in grade school.
No, it makes sense.
Okay, how old is too old? Living with your parents. How old is too old?
You know what?
This is
I
tricky
would
because
say-
everyone in Orlando currently
Yes.
lives with their parents
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah.
The thing is, like,
No, just kidding. Not everybody.
having now like moved on my own, paying my own bills and stuff, man, I would live with your parents like as long as you can. Seriously, and then I would like save up. Not live with your parents and then like buy $500 sneakers and like Philly fancy cars and stuff. Because I'm
Right.
like, okay, that's enough. But if
Right.
you're gonna live with your parents and they let you and they
Right.
let you live rent free and you can save a bunch of money and then move out and be financially okay. Because in Orlando, it's really expensive to live. So I think when I was younger, I would be like, 18, get out. But now that I'm like, oh, this is how much things cost, then
Yeah.
I'd be like, just don't
Well, I've
mess
lived
it
on
up.
my own since I was 18. So, like, as soon as I graduated high school, moved out here to Orlando. So I thought it was really weird, like, seeing, like, grown people 22 and up still living at
That's
home.
the Hispanic culture,
That's
though.
what I realized.
You don't,
So I don't
like,
say
you don't move
that
out.
because I'll be shamed for it because I get it now.
Wow.
I understand the dynamic. But
We think it's weird when like Caucasian white people, they're like 18, get out of the house. We're like, no, we're staying here.
yeah, but if
forever.
you're like
Yeah.
a artist or you have like a dream or you're creative or a visionary, stay at home as long as you can. That's my advice, because if you can do your art, set up your little room into a studio or whatever the case may be, keep doing that. I would say stay at home as long as you possibly can. But if you're just going to school, like, yo, grow up.
For me,
Jonathan,
okay, so like
grow
I'm
up. Get out the house.
The
Wow, man,
house.
names for real.
Yes, you.
So I'm almost on the same page as her, except I'm on the other side of it, where like I do still
So
live
you're
at home.
not on the same.
No. So hear
I'm
me
on
out.
the
Hear me
same
out.
page
Hear me
as
out.
her, but a
Hear me
Hear me
different
out.
page.
No, her perspective on it, except she's already moved out. I still live at home. So all the advice I've been
lucky.
given is like, yeah, stay there as long as you can if you're being allowed to. And I think for me personally, like, I don't know, until it feels weird, like, I don't know that I would feel the urge or the real need to move out unless it was a really uncomfortable living situation. But I think that the age for me, once that like first digit in my year hits 3, that's when I'm a little bit like,
yeah. I
even
mean,
if you're
way
even if you're
before
letting,
I didn't even think.
yeah, probably around
that.
28, I think, or 20.
Because
Yeah,
the thing about it is,
I'm just pushing it to the maximum
I'm
though.
just saying, like, you can't have like a bedtime or a curfew. Like,
Oh, if you have, I don't.
that's what I'm saying. Like, you'll
John
have
makes
that.
his own rules.
Yeah, I
so-
don't.
I know you'll have your own rules, but it's just like you still have to follow your parents' rules, and you're still gonna be like a kid.
I
to a
hear you. I
degree.
think it's different for everyone. I don't think that's the
Yeah.
case
So
for
maybe he
everyone who
needs a
lives
really
at home.
solid bedtime.
That's true.
That's
know what I'm
true. They
saying?
still stay up playing Fortnite. So.
I know. So then it's like
3
2 hours
a.m.
are up.
Man, you guys,
2 hours,
I do
20
not
hours
play
ago.
Fortnite that much. Okay.
Okay,
Move
how
on.
old is
That
too
much.
old to not leave a tip for a waiter?
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean, as soon as you start, as soon as you're old enough
If you're
to
old
eat
enough
out,
to go to a restaurant,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think I'm not
I
gonna
agree
lie
with
though. I like when I was younger, I didn't tip
Oh my
like at all
gosh.
because I was like, what they do for me, like.
What do you mean younger?
They
like,
waited
like
on
17,
you.
18,
Oh, I was
19,
younger,
20,
like
21.
20.
Yeah,
24, 25.
That's so
I know it's
Went all the way up to 21.
Like, you know,
Started at 17,
someone
he went to
called me on it,
21.
and I was like, "What you mean?" And like, I was like, "Oh, okay."
You were offended?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't offended, but I was like, "Oh, is everyone doing this?" I thought I was. I was like, "Tip,
thought this
do
line
better."
was here for
Like,
nothing.
Tip, bring my water faster. You know what I'm saying?
gosh.
Like, and then I realized it's like a common courtesy, like saying hello or being polite. You know, tipping is just normal.
Well, because waiters only make like $4 an hour or something.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
And
But
their-
I also-
their
when I was
real
younger,
their salary
the
comes
minimum,
from
the
their
minimum wage
tips.
is like
yeah.
way less.
so I was
My
more
logic
okay with it
was-
when I was younger, not tipping
Yeah.
or tipping a small amount. I
What
didn't know
age?
that.
17, 18,
14.
19,
No,
20,
after like
14.
16 or 17, I started to realize these guys make like no money and they rely on a tip.
But in my
So-
mind, the logic was that's your choice. You chose to work this job. They told you your rate going
Poor
into
waiters.
It. I mean, poor.
Oh my gosh.
Um,
Okay,
Sound
how
like
old
a
is
choice.
too old? Being in love with a celebrity.
16.
Do got like Jonathan?
At
would you
17,
say,
that's it.
I think at 17, it's like, well, this is getting
I
weird.
think we have to define being in love.
Well, yeah, I was gonna ask you as
I
like
mean,
as a bro, like
having
would
a
you
crush
say,
on a celebrity
do you
and-
think guys really like are in love with celebrities? I don't
No,
think
in
that's
love,
like a guy
I
thing.
don't know. In love, no.
Yeah.
No, but
But in crush?
a crush.
In
I
lust?
mean,
It's
that's
like
like.
in-
Whoa.
no,
I mean,
well,
if
you-
I mean, I can't.
Okay, if you want to break it down like that,
Whoa.
not like that. But I was just gonna say, like with girls, when they have like their celebrity, like whatever is usually like an emotional thing, and then with guys,
But
it's
guys
usually
are always
just,
really serious about love and stuff.
well,
so.
yeah, totally, 100%. We're completely faithful, you know.
Like you're the better
It just
sex.
yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with
I
you.
mean, I
You're
didn't say
perfect.
it. You heard it first. No, I'm just kidding. No,
here.
but like with guys, like our celebrity crushes are. It's usually just like, oh, she's really pretty, or
Yeah.
it's just like a physical thing. But with girls, it's like, oh my god, he gets me. Like,
Oh, goodness.
I
Well,
feel
you
like
see them like crying at concerts
yeah,
and stuff. Like that's
like if
definitely
it's
an
a
emotional
Lainey
thing.
concert, Paul
Okay.
Klein, tears. They're
Yeah.
crying.
I don't think I've ever had a celebrity crush. I literally, I never
gosh.
had like a boy poster on my wall.
Really?
I've never had,
Well, I
yeah,
don't mean to
like
post
I
I
am
just
anything,
like
don't.
the opposite of
Well,
that.
yes, we know. I think everyone here knows your celebrity crush.
Who is it?
Oh.
Justin.
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Justin
I thought you were
Bieber.
No.
talking about mine.
Bieber.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay.
But I had to let it go of that
Aw.
because we're both married now.
but-
So it's
So it would be wrong now.
so it would be wrong, right, guys? It would be wrong. It would be
Right,
wrong for me to
Justin,
still be
hello?
in love with him. It would be.
I don't know what age. What age?
Hey, Justin, if you see this, praying for you.
No, he's a
Justin,
good-looking
hey.
dude, though. I'd have a
he's-
crush on him too.
Oh my
Well,
goodness.
Can I say that?
How old is too old for that?
How old is too old to shop at trendy stores? Like, how old is too old to go into Forever 21 or to like PacSun or something like
I
that?
don't think you get too old for that.
Well, picture like 50 or 60.
No, because
At Forever 21 shopping.
Picture that. Is that not weird?
I mean, if you know how to put, if you have good sense of style, then nothing is like off limits.
70?
I mean, if you have good sense of style.
1,000 years
Well, because
old.
think about it, we make fun of like old people for like dressing out of the trend, if that makes sense. You know what I'm
I
saying?
don't make
Like,
fun of old
No,
people.
it seems like they're
ever.
supposed
I
to.
shame old people exclusively.
horrible.
No, I'm just kidding. I just kidding. I do sometimes. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like any of those trendy stores, trendy style. How old is too old?
I feel like Forever 21 just doesn't even fit anyone over like 24, 23. Like I've gone in there being like, oh yeah, this is where I shop. And then I'm like, what is this stuff?
Joke's on you. This shirt is from Forever 21.
Wait, are you being serious?
You
I'm
shouldn't
dead
have
serious.
it.
Whoa.
This hat is from Forever 21 as well.
And how old are you?
I'm 26. Yeah.
Man.
See, my whole thought about it is you can dress however you want, but you don't have to wear it like it's from there, if that makes sense. Like that's why I say with style, I don't know if you get too old, but
I'm gonna slap the 30 on that one.
you're gonna slap the 30
Yeah.
on
Everything
it.
is
Just
30,
things
I
gotta
think,
change when that
right?
3 comes,
I
man.
can't wait
It's
till
just-
Jonathan turns 30
it's
and just see what
it's
his
just
life
I
looks
feel like
like.
maybe
It's
like
just
10
different.
years ago or maybe 15 years ago, it would have been like 20. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Because everyone was like at 20, they already
It's
had a
moved
house
up.
and 10 kids and
Yeah,
whatever.
but that's not real.
Yeah,
So
I
maybe
get-
it's not real when I get to 30. I don't know. But I
We'll
feel
move
like
out to 40.
Oh,
I think.
yeah, it's
40's
just
the
in your
one,
mind. That's
yeah.
just like an idea of
40's
what 30
right.
is.
I mean, that's
yeah.
really all it is because I haven't
It's
been
not
30
true.
yet.
It's not real.
We'll see.
Realistic.
We'll see.
Well, that was super fun. That's not
I
realistic.
do still shop there though.
At Forever 21?
When you're
The one
not
in,
Your
uh,
son,
dirty
is
yet.
there
Water-
any other trendy stores you still shop at?
I don't never done Hot Topic. Y'all ever been there?
Oh, Hot
I've never
Topic.
done
Okay.
Hot Topic.
Hot Topic.
Hot Topic
Never.
is
For
cool.
costumes
I'm too
for
old now.
productions, I have.
Oh, okay. That's like
That's
shopping
what-
there
that's
for
like the
a
Like the
go-to
dozen.
if you wanna get-
suspenders
yeah.
and like the striped tights for the marionettes.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
that makes sense.
You
You
said
can
all
get-
my
I'm
like
kinda scared
band
of that
T-shirts.
store.
Yeah, it's
Almost
a little
like a
scary.
costume store with how trendy things
It's
can
not
be
a
in there.
costume store.
Oh, yeah, no.
Almost like it.
It's
The
just
whole back wall has band T-shirts.
yeah. That's
that
why
your
you
go-to
go.
Including
store?
Justin Bieber.
Oh.
Not
You still go
anymore.
there?
Not anymore, but I mean, I still have a ton of T-shirts that I bought from there that I wear.
I haven't
Okay.
been to Hot Topic in a minute. I wonder
Is
if
there a
it's
Hot
different.
Topic
I
somewhere?
think it's done.
Florida Mall
It has to be.
or
Though.
Millennia?
No, at
No.
Florida Mall, it's like a new store.
Oh, my bad.
It
Well, that
has
just
like
proves I
those
don't go
little
there.
pop figurines.
Oh,
It's like a whole store about that.
I don't know.
We got to find a closest Hot Topic near us
true.
and take
Probably
a,
like
a,
Fashion
a
Square
trip
Mall.
there. Aw,
They're
Fashion
closing
Square.
that down.
Yeah.
Well, they have been forever.
Yeah, 9 years I think or longer. It's the one right
When
by my
Jonathan
house.
turns
so
30.
when
That's when it
it'll
closes
all-
down.
it'll
We'll go there,
all
celebrate his
change.
birthday, and we're like,
Oh,
that's
man.
it. You can't do
so
it.
sad.
Kinda
Look at
fun,
this
though.
Wasteland.
Anyways, on this episode, we are going to talk about conflict management / how to deal with offense.
Man.
Super awesome topic, a very hot topic.
Oh wow.
You know what I'm
Just
saying?
like
See how I
me.
did
Oh
that?
my
was
God.
fire.
See how I did that?
Yeah, that was
You
good.
are-
That was
yeah,
really
you
good.
don't- oh my goodness,
Whoa.
David, don't doubt me. So we're just gonna go right into it. So first question: on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, how good are you at conflict management?
On a scale of 1 to 10. Well, since I spoke first, I guess I'll go first.
You're
Go
up.
for it.
On a scale of 1 to 10, I think I'm 10, solid 10 with conflict management because I'm like pro confrontation. I just
Pro conflict?
yeah, like I'm full. Well, is there a difference
I would
between
say I'm
conflict
perfect at
and
conflict.
confrontation?
I
Like-
think
Yeah.
so.
Confrontation is what you do because of the conflict.
Okay, so in that case, yeah, I'm
10.
I'm still 10. I'm just
Okay,
still-
yeah.
I'm just 10 across the board. Well, because like yeah, I don't like gray areas, so I don't like to like let things whatever. But I don't know if I always just being like so like aggressive towards it is always the best thing in managing it. So maybe I'll stay at 9.5 at that point.
9.5,
You know, sometimes
9.5.
you know, sometimes.
I have to give myself like 2 distinct numbers, which is probably cheating, but like just the normal Kaimana in her, just all of her glory, like I would be a 4. Like my most natural self, I would be terrible, but like the Holy Spirit Kaimana that has prayed and is like ready to take on the world, I would be like an 8.
Oh.
Yes,
Okay.
but they are very different numbers, so that's why prayer matters.
Amen.
Yes.
Good at it. That's true. I should pray more.
So for me, it's a solid 8, and the reason it's not higher is because, well, the reason it's an 8 is because when I do decide, okay, I need to speak with someone, I need to sort this out, it normally goes pretty well. And I think that goes for a lot of like confrontations that people like need to have. They just assume the outcome is going to be way worse than it actually is. I think a lot more people are receptive to confrontation and figuring things out than people assume. So I think it's an 8 for me because I am good at doing that when it needs to happen, but it's not higher for me because I don't know. Sometimes I just assume like things are going to be okay without that confrontation.
Right.
I just assume because I'm not going to be like just, sitting on it and always thinking about it's not going to really ruin my day. I don't think about like, well, other people don't process things the same way that I do. So
that's what I was thinking because I would say more people are passive and they just like avoid confrontation.
you think most people are
most
like that?
people, like on average, like
Well,
not
that
even
they
not even in a
avoid it.
dramatic kind of way. Like I
Right.
just think most people, like you said, just they just think it's just going to be
right.
okay.
But do they avoid it and not let it bother them, or does it bother them?
Oh, no, they
just
linger.
They
see,
linger
that's
in
the
it,
difference.
yeah.
So for me, it really doesn't bother me, and I'm okay with not being confrontational, but I don't sometimes think of the other person and say, okay, they're okay with not being confronted about this or confronting each other because they don't want to deal with the awkwardness or whatever, but it will linger with them and it will bother them.
Yeah.
And that's where I think I need to be better is
Oh, yeah,
considering
you
the
have
other
to be
person
the
that
bigger
needs to
person,
be
yeah.
confronted.
I'm kind of a 9.5 because I can't confront everything all the time, 24/7, because it will ruin my sleep, my life, my everything.
Okay.
I process it.
That makes
But
sense.
I've had to learn kind of opposite of you when you're like, I've realized that I have to think about the other person,
Right.
that they're not thinking about it. I'm opposite. I need to
I see.
not fight every battle because other people are not thinking
Not
about
even
it.
thinking about it that
So
way,
I'm
yeah.
just like, oh no, they're never gonna talk to me
Oh,
again.
wow.
This is gonna happen, this and this. So
That's
I've had
true.
to okay, cálmate.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like just breathe. You don't have to fight every battle because sometimes it is solved on its own.
Yeah.
true.
So we're like
Yeah.
polar opposite.
I feel like my thing is like John. I'm on the same page, but a different page with Jonathan.
We're gonna keep doing
love
that.
that page.
We're gonna keep doing that.
It's good pay.
But like,
Solid.
I feel like I don't ever really care. The 4 in me doesn't care to do
Yeah.
it because I just don't usually care. Like I don't care. It's not something I think about. And so then I'm like, I feel like I'm like him all the time when I'm like, well, I don't really need to, I personally don't need to talk about it. I'm personally over it.
Yeah.
Like it's not affecting me, but then why I have to pray is because I'm like, oh, it's probably affecting that person
Right.
though. And they're
Right.
probably like thinking about it a lot.
Yeah.
So
Have you ever had that conflict whenever it's over and someone will come find you a year later or several months later and it's just like, yo, this and this bothered me?
I've never had that happen to me.
I've heard other people tell me that they're still talking about an issue, but that person has never came to me.
But
because-
has it been a year, like she's talking about, a long time after?
It's been a long time. Maybe not a whole year
Yeah,
or
but a long
whatever.
time.
But yeah, it's just been a long time where I'm like, are you still on that?
Right.
I didn't even know that was a thing. Why didn't you come talk to me? 'Cause
Right.
being pro confrontation, blah blah blah, all that stuff, I would have figured we could have squashed it by now if you would have just.
But
said
that
something.
can be prevented by you going to the person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And figuring
Right.
things
But
out.
sometimes when you don't know what's going on, I've had people approach me and it's like, man, this was an
Yeah.
issue.
Right.
And I've had it that I'm like, really?
Yeah.
And I
That's the
explain
worst feeling.
myself and they're like,
yeah. And it's-
night and day, instantly
it's settled,
solved. And
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
so crazy how just kind of confronting that.
I've had
It's-
people do that to me a few times, and it's them usually apologizing. They're like, I'm so sorry. I've been mad at you for 6 months. And I was like, whoa, I had no idea you were
That's the
mad
best
at me.
6 months of
I was
life
like, this is
ever.
the best days of my life. What do you mean? And then, honestly, I always kind of feel weird because I'm just like, man, I'm not in the place you're in. So you're having this
Yeah.
whole revival moment of forgiveness, but I had that so long ago
Yeah.
that now I'm kind of thank you.
Yeah.
I just think
We're
it's
good.
important when it comes to this to be the type of person kind of in a public setting. So when just with your demeanor, to be the type of person who is just so approachable and so, I don't know, you just need to seem like it's okay to come to me with issues because that's the only way you can almost guarantee that no one is letting things linger for 6 months, a year, whatever, is to just be the best you can be at saying I'm not perfect, saying I'm not whatever, vocalizing that. I think the fear of confronting someone is there's no way that this person even thinks there's anything wrong with them. So this is going to come out of left field and they're going to be offended and they're going to whatever. But if that person is displaying, man, I'm not perfect, man, I can improve, man. If they have that demeanor about themselves and I have an issue with them, it might still take a month or so, but I would be like, hey, can we talk about this? Because they seem so approachable in that area.
Yeah.
I think that's important.
Yeah. How do you guys manage conflict?
Well, I got a good piece of advice from a friend years ago, and they basically were just saying, address the issue, not just what you're mad about. And I think of have you ever been in a situation where it's you're arguing with a friend? I mean, maybe not you, but you might have whatever. But basically, you're going back and forth. It's well, thanks for hitting me up. And it's well, you never hit me up. And it's well, you don't ever hit me up. And it's well, you never hit me up. And so then you spend the conversation arguing about not hitting each other up. But the issue is y'all both miss each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that never getting addressed. So sometimes I just try and work for the greater good of the outcome that I want. And so that little phrase, address the issue, not just what you're mad about, helps me kind of manage it or know if I'm just being in my feelings or whatever and I can get
That's
over
good.
it, or if I need to actually confront it, if that makes sense. So.
Yeah.
Kaimana, how do you manage?
I wait till I'm very calm. because it usually doesn't take that long to get over something and be ready to talk about it. So I usually just like am very matter of fact and like logical, which I mean, sometimes that's not good because people want to see that emotion in you or whatever, but I just can't do that because then I probably would get emotional because I'm like, I don't even want to have this conversation. Like, I just feel so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So then I like just lay things out and I speak very clearly and I like make my points known.
This is when you're an 8?
This is when I'm an 8.
Okay,
When
gotcha.
I'm a 4, it's just
That's a whole
radio
other-
silence.
That's real.
But yeah, so and then I like, when the person's explaining themselves, I try to ask them like, what can I do, next time to not have this happen? What were you expecting? What is my role? And then kind of just, I'm like pretty good at like apologizing because I don't mind being like, I know I'm just a dirty piece of trash. Like I'm the worst person alive.
Yeah.
Tell me how to fix myself. Like I don't care putting myself in that position. So a lot of times like that helps because then it is a little bit disarming that I'm not trying to like, defend myself.
Yeah,
I'm like,
exactly.
no, I'm the worst person alive. You tell me what you want me to
Right.
do.
Yeah.
So I try to take that approach.
I think it's really important too that sometimes when there is conflict, that we have to remember sometimes it's just in our heads or it's something like we can solve on our own.
Yeah.
Like if we assume,
100%.
especially people that we love, like our family, our friends, like we know they love us, they care for us. So like, I think whenever we first feel that, I think it's best to just like pray and breathe and think. Because a lot of times I think, oh my goodness, I think 90% of the time you can solve it and fix it in your prayer time and be like, okay, God, I'm giving this to you. And you realize like, I was just really in a bad mood or I was this, or you know what? It's not worth me bringing this up right now. And I think that really does cover like a multitude of issues.
Yeah.
And if after that it's still in your head, then maybe you do need to bring it up to that person. But I don't think everything needs to be confronted.
People skip that step. They skip the like process on your own, pray about it, like actually think if this is something that needs to, because you could end up starting a bigger fire than was ever there to begin with by talking to this. And then like, I don't know, the other things come too, the little petty things that you're mad about because you're in this like tone of confrontation. Then you start like other things that you never would have even brought up. So I think people really skip that step a lot, just kind of taking a moment to sit on it. Sometimes like the idea that it was maybe your fault and maybe you did do something stupid never even comes to your head because you don't give it time to like really sit. Maybe this was, you know what I'm saying? You just automatically go to, we need to figure this out. And that just
Like,
breeds
so
more
here's
issues.
The problem.
Right.
You're
Instead
the
of,
problem.
but the thing is like you said, like 90% of the time, like it's honestly probably in your own head and whatever. So you can figure it out with prayer and with anything but confronting a person, especially before you've had time to process the emotions of it all. So,
what do you think are some helpful tips in conflict management?
Off the bat, I would say there's like these 3 questions. It's like a internal thing you can ask yourself. It's like, does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said right now?
Oh, that's good. Say that again.
Does it need to be said? Does it need to be said by me? And does it need to be said right now? And so that's like a self-awareness kind of thing of like, with anything, even if it's not conflict, even if it's just voicing your own opinion, you know what I'm saying, like in general, but especially with conflict, I've learned because I'm pro-confrontational and I attack it head on, I'm like, does this need to be said by me is majority of what I ask myself a lot because I'm very quick to want to tell people about themselves. And it's like sometimes the way I would do it, my approach or my tone or whatever, they might not receive it. So am I focused on just wanting to like say it like to them so I can feel like relief or release, or am I wanting to like actually like help them or better them? So just figuring that out.
No, that's wise.
I know like, again, I'm coming from like the horrible hating confrontation side, but one thing that I would say, because I know a lot of people don't like confrontation, is just that I've learned that like if you're not willing to confront things and deal with conflict, like you have to be willing to sacrifice that relationship, because like growing up, like I feel like I never had long-term friendships, and now that I'm older, I'm like, wow, it's because literally if we got in one fight or one thing happened, or you did this one time, then I didn't like conflict, and so I'd just be like, all right, well, bye.
Wow,
And so then I realized getting older, I'm like, man, that's probably not a great behavior to continue. So now that I've had friends for 5, 6, 7, 8 years, now I'm like, we have had conflicts, and like I remember our first couple conflicts, I was like, oh my gosh, I think it's over. Like, I think it's over between us, you know, see you later, need a new friend. And then usually because of my friends, they've like text me the next day and like, hey, let's get lunch. And I'm like, wait a second, you can stay friends after a fight? And so that's kind of, I would just say, if you are bad at confrontation, just know that like it's for the better of your relationship.
Yeah, that's like heavy part of commitment.
Yeah.
Like sticking to our words, sticking to our relationships, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
tough.
think like I could be married if I hadn't learned that lesson, because Gio and I have probably gotten in the most conflicts because we're together all the time.
Yeah.
And so I would be like, if you can't deal with conflict, like you really have to figure it out before you do go get married.
I would just even say, just as an emotional person, like that's a part of like processing your emotions. Actually, like if you just avoid the conflict, then you never really like take the time to learn how to develop like how to process those feelings. And then, but no, that's real, because I was the same way like for a long time before I realized that. Yeah.
Do you have any helpful hints?
I mean, one of the main ones, especially as of recently, because there was just a little bit of a conflict at my my workplace, my secular workplace.
Say names. You
wouldn't know the names.
Bill.
What's their Twitter?
Steve Jobs.
No, but definitely just trying to see the other person's perspective, and not assuming that they have like ill will towards you, because I mean, most of the time, especially if we're talking about a close friend or a family member, like their reaction or whatever's causing the conflict in the first place is probably out of care for you. Like they genuinely have good intentions. So don't assume that they don't. I think that's where a lot of the negative emotions can come in, is like, oh, I trusted you, or I thought you wanted the best for me. And that's nonsense. They do. It's just, it's being, translated in a way that maybe you're not receiving, and you need to figure it out from there. But so that, and then also just, seeing it from their perspective, and then just, I don't know, giving it really just that time, just that time to begin with. I remember when this thing first kind of happened at my workplace, I was in a place, man, if that conversation would have happened there, if that conversation would have happened right then and there, it would not have gone as really awesomely as it did when it actually happened, which was like 3 days removed from the situation. It's because a lot of emotions settled, a lot of like frustration settled, and it was able to be although still in depth, it was a calm conversation. But then right in that moment too, back to my first tip, is like I just understood like they have their best interest for me in mind. It just didn't seem that way, so I need to come off of that foot instead of assuming they're trying to hurt me.
Expect the best.
And when we say too, like just kind of think about it, pray about it, doesn't mean post it on social media and then think about it just because
just text them praying for you.
Sometimes you just gotta pray
just because
about
you don't
it.
actually say it out loud doesn't mean that you are not confronting them.
Right.
That passive aggressiveness is super
especially with
awesome.
social media.
That's true.
Okay, let's get a little deeper. Yes or no? Are you easily offended? You can say yes or no first, and then we can explain.
I don't even know anymore. So someone
You don't know who you are.
I don't know who I am.
Okay, I would say that I'm not easily offended, but I would say like I'm probably so far in the other spectrum where I'm not offended easily because I'm not sensitive. Like I'm not a sensitive person. I'm not a feeler. Like, I don't know. It's probably also why I'm not creative. Like I'm just not. And I love like growing up, like before The Office existed, before, before everyone was sarcastic, like my family genuinely is. And like we would roast each other and get roasted. And like I remember my cousins hated it and they would be like, you guys are mean. And they'd be crying and I'd be like, ah, like I love it. Like I love to be made fun of and I love to make fun of other people. And so I'm not easily offended, but as I've grown up, I've had to realize like, wow, some people like have a heart, some people have feelings. And so I've had to like kind of ratchet back my interactions, assuming everyone's like me. Yeah. So yeah.
It's funny you say that because like I understand like roasting and all of that, but I'm like supremely emotional. So like I'm a big old crybaby about like everything. I'm super sensitive, but I understand like I'm incredibly savage. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? In the same like I feel like it's like real love if I like hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I don't hurt your feelings, then so that's kind of how I see it. But I think like because I am so sensitive, I would have to definitely like, yeah, man, I'm easily offended. Yeah.
I think I'm probably more on the side of easily offended. I've just grown to not be, but if I was to be like my raw self, I mean, I think part of it is because people have no problems telling me exactly what they think.
Yeah.
Everyone thinks they're the first person
I
to
don't know
like
if you've
let me
noticed.
know. Like they they do not care. In the middle of a production, at the end of my sermon,
Yep,
Yeah.
I've seen this.
they have no problems going, I just want you to know that that person forgot a line and it was really bad. I just want you to know that your
It was
other
me.
drama
I
was
forgot the
better.
line.
I just want you to know
was
that I don't
David.
believe women should be preaching.
Man.
And no one has a problem. And because I am more an artist, I'm just like, I go to my car, I'm bawling my eyes
Yeah.
out. I'm
Right.
like, and I'm going to hell, I guess.
Yeah.
And I'm just like completely offended. I'm like completely hurt because
Right.
everyone just thinks they can just
Yeah.
say whatever
Yeah.
without tact,
Yeah.
without, so I've had to like learn to be like, it's fine, it's fine.
good.
Don't
It's all
cry,
good.
don't cry. It's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I used
you
to
know?
cry for everything. I used to cry for everything as a kid growing up. I don't.
As-
cry.
17,
yesterday,
18,
Yeah, I mean-
19,
When I hit 30, I'll
20.
stop
Honestly,
crying.
21.
Sometimes when you all gang up on me, no, I'm just kidding.
I don't take myself as easily offended at all. I don't think I'm easily offended. I don't know how to describe it, but I think the main thing is this, like, and this is how I advise other people in this area as well. Like, I just hate the idea of somebody, especially someone who doesn't have a lot of like investment in my life and stake in my life. I hate the idea of somebody saying something or doing something and them having, I guess, the power to like have that affect me inwardly.
Yeah.
So the way I see it is when people say or do certain things that might offend me, I don't know. I guess like I need this dissected by someone else, like a
Yes.
professional or something.
Therapist,
But
Well, we're here.
But,
psychologist.
but like I think I don't know. I'm just really able to like put it to the side. I don't do what I do in the conflict management thing where I'm like, oh, they have good intentions. They just didn't mean that. I don't think of it that way. I'm like,
Yeah.
they probably did want to hurt my feelings or whatever, especially like I said, if it's someone who didn't have a lot of just whatever in my life. But I don't know. I forget things easily, like on purpose. So like I'm like, okay, but also too like
I forget things easily on
Are you
purpose.
okay?
I forget things on
I don't even know where I
easy
am
you all
right
right?
now.
On purpose.
What are we doing?
What were you saying?
What is this mic for? No, I like if I want to forget about something, I can. Even in moments is bad. Even in moments
I
where
was
I
gonna
know.
say, this is not very healthy. Right
No.
now, you're not.
And so
like,
I just stuff it
You're
down deep
repressing
into a
things.
Hear
deep,
me
deep
out,
hole
hear me
inside of
out.
myself.
But at the age of 30,
That's gonna
It'll all
change.
just
Coming out.
I'm gonna be better then.
And you'll be at PacSun, Hot Topic.
So when it comes to the stuff, like I don't know, even when I did something wrong and then like they react in a way that offends me, I don't know. I just kind of have this way about like brushing it off, sometimes laughing about it.
But do you mean like you're now going on the defensive when people offend you, and then you're like offending them by not caring?
No, maybe.
like, do you cut them out of your life too?
no,
Or just like you're out
no,
of
no,
here?
no.
Yeah,
Do you
well,
put them
regardless
in a place? It's like they're not out of your life, but in your mind, they're out of your life.
No,
No, you
I
just
don't
put them
think
in a
I've
category
ever-
where they don't matter. They're non-factor.
But
like, it's
but
irrelevant.
honestly, if they weren't in that
we do.
category
Yeah.
already, if they weren't already in that category, then I would be offended.
They would be
right because
Oh,
the
okay.
people who have that in my life, I think I wouldn't. Maybe I am easily offended by those people.
Yeah.
So they're already in that kind of category, which sounds bad. I mean, you know what I mean, though. Not everyone's a close friend. So I'm talking about people who aren't really close to me.
What?
Yeah, surprise. Those are the people who, I guess, whatever. Like if they say something, I'm like, well, I guess their words don't have that much weight to
You
begin
just
with.
don't matter.
I don't say that out loud, even in my
mattered
head.
to me.
Even-
you are
even in my
nothing.
head.
Offending
Also, no.
people.
Even in my head,
But
though, I don't
feel
say that. No, it's just literally, it's like I can delete it like a file.
That's
But
cool.
even with it, even like, just, I don't know. It's just, I don't want it there I so badly don't want it there
Yeah.
that my mind just subconsciously erases it and the person remains where they were because they were there to
That's
begin with.
great, though. I think.
You're like,
I don't know.
Kinda.
That's
This
why I
is
want
super
therapy for
random.
this.
I'm not
because
sure
I
if
don't
it's
know.
great, but
I don't know.
You're the opposite of Corey Matthews from Boy Meets World, because there's a whole episode in the show where he was like so upset that like he found out Angela didn't like him, and so he was going to everyone like, "What's wrong with me?" Like, and like he was just so hurt by that. So you're the opposite of that.
I
Yeah.
guess, yeah, but like what you're
Super.
saying, if anyone was to offend me, it would be someone who's super close to me.
Yeah,
because
that's-
at that point I would be like, wow, this was like some
But at that point,
really,
if it's someone that really
you know a
loves
lot
you
about me, and you just
offends
went ahead
you,
and do that.
Don't you think it's probably more of a rebuke than an offense?
Well, I know the difference, and I know when I feel rebuked, and I know when I feel
I'll
offended.
tell you what.
I would
know
say
the-
no.
I know the difference.
Also, too, isn't being offended? It's more your reaction, not necessarily their reaction.
Yeah, I would say that.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I need
like,
therapy.
He doesn't care.
I do. No,
I'm
but
30.
no, like the difference is for me, like to me, offense is like almost 100% of the time given out of at least perceived ignorance.
But no one gives offense.
Yeah, you
You're
only
just
take it.
offended.
Sorry, it's received.
You can only take it.
It's received because I'm assuming they're just being ignorant and they said something that actually hurt me. They don't even know and they don't even care.
Okay.
Like that is
Very upset right
that
now.
is
Yeah.
That finger's wailing.
Ooh, was it Steve?
Steve.
Okay,
I don't know.
can you
Workplace
guys
guy.
receive rebuke? You can just say yes or no, and then I'll ask you another question. Can
I
you
want
receive it?
to say yes
Uh-huh.
because I think I
Define
do.
receive. Define receive.
But
Take it.
like, can you
Apply
take
it.
it from
Okay,
someone?
like-
But like, if Gio watches this podcast, he would be like, "You're lying." So I guess I have to say no, because I cannot take it from him at least.
Baby Dino?
Can I receive rebuke?
Sound
Can
it
you even
out.
say
We're gonna
it?
rebuke you
Can
right
I
now.
say rebuke? Can I receive it? Yes.
Yeah. From the people that offend you?
No, I can't receive it from
No,
that.
no.
I don't know. I
They're
just
in a
think those
different
people don't have the
category.
capacity to rebuke
Those
me.
people don't,
Don't
matter.
matter.
No, that's not.
They are irrelevant.
I'm saying in the area of like digging deep and saying, hey, this thing that you do, it's wrong and you need to stop it. Or this thing that you're not doing, you need to start doing it. Like those, I can't get that from people who I'm not close with. Am I crazy for that?
No. Like, I don't know.
Okay, but then on
I
the
might
other
be
side,
crazy too.
when it comes to like why my answer is yes, here's why. Because if you, for example, you gave me rebuke on something, okay, there's only two like ways I can receive that. One is I would just assume like, oh, she's wrong, and that's just not true and whatever. And I think if that's my pastor, and like, why would I assume that like that she's wrong? So no, like let's push that one to the side. And then the other one is this: she's correct, and it just hit something that because it's true feels a little rough, feels a little because it's true.
Yeah.
So then all I can do is move forward with like, well, stinks, doesn't feel good, but I guess it's true, and I have to move forward.
Well, I'm just thinking like, if I'm emotionally invested into whatever I'm getting rebuked on, my answer is no. Because then my like feelings, I'm sensitive, I'm
Yeah.
in it, so I'm like,
But like, what's an example of that?
well, like if it's something like personal or something that I feel
Like
like,
a video he created.
Yeah,
For
video or
Yeah,
song.
like
And
something you put like your
I'm
whole
like,
heart
David,
in.
You know
I
what
don't
I'm
like
saying?
it. We're not going to post it.
no, 100%, I'd be
Yeah.
like, well, that's
Yeah.
just fine, totally good. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would.
No problem.
Yeah, like it's weird. I had to learn how to detach myself from like my work as well too. But like if whatever it is, if I'm emotionally like if there's emotional like investment in it, then I can't receive rebuke. It's like incredibly hard.
Yeah, I feel like that's true.
But if it's just like something like if I move something, if I set something up wrong, and it's like, hey, why did you even put that there? Like I was just lifting and putting things down. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like I won't feel no type of way about it after that fact. But like,
What if it's about the way you talk or the way you treat someone? What if it's
or
rebuke
the way you
about that?
look, or
yeah,
the way you
I mean,
dress.
yeah,
The
with
Forever 21
yeah,
shirt.
you know what I'm saying. I mean, I think I look good. I think I talk well, and
Wow.
so I would say you're wrong.
Oh, okay.
You don't matter. Get out of
It's
here.
different when you're emotionally invested in something.
Yeah.
Like it really is.
Yeah.
When you're just like completely, or you take your emotions out of it, you're like, oh yeah, I can take it, no big deal. I always crack up at the people who swear they don't care because they think they're not emotionally invested, but low key, they are.
Yeah.
It's like, well,
You
yeah,
can't fake
whatever. Yeah, it's whatever you want, but I just think it looks stupid now, and you're done. And it's like, oh, okay, David, just keep the video.
It's fine. It's fine.
We'll just post it, and that's
Got-
fine.
no.
Yeah,
Hard
yeah.
drive
You didn't make the
full,
video,
you know what
but
I'm
no,
saying?
that's fine.
Yeah. it's
You
good.
don't like anything good.
good.
Okay, what's the difference between offending and rebuking?
That's a good question. Jonathan.
It's just the reception of it, I think.
Okay.
But at the same time, certain topics you can't like. You can offend. Like if I were to say a
Can
certain.
you go around rebuking everyone you know?
No.
No, because some people
Says
are
who?
irrelevant.
Okay.
Jonathan.
Says who?
Okay.
He
No,
doesn't
but
see something.
There's a point to it. There's, what is our ultimate way of truth that we believe in?
Oh, it's through correction, right?
What does the Bible say though about
Jesus.
rebuking
Oh, a
everyone?
wise man loves rebuke.
Yeah.
Yes,
And so-
but also it does say that like younger people shouldn't rebuke their elders.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
There
Right.
is
Right.
a solid precedence to that. So you're
Yeah.
not wrong in going, hey, 5-year-old, I don't have to, you don't tell me what to do. I wear my own shirt,
I shop at Forever 21.
Yes, I do what I want. Go play
I have
Fortnite.
8 more years of Forever 21 shopping.
So like, what
Leave
is
me alone.
the difference between offending or rebuking? When you're just like, okay, I'm gonna, I've been here for 5 minutes. I'm
I
going to
think it's-
rebuke Pastor Jonathan
I
at
think it's
Redbug.
just
I'm
the
going to tell him how to preach.
the level of how critical
Yeah.
you or what you're critical of.
I
Okay.
think that's it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, okay, well, this isn't like edifying to me at this point. Like, the correction you're giving me is just your personal, like, take on whatever you see. It's it's more of your opinion than it is backed with like wisdom or sound doctrine or
Yeah.
something biblical that I could actually like digest in my
Yeah.
spirit and then
Yeah.
produce like fruit from. You know what I'm saying? Not to get all
I would say
metaphorical.
like maybe opinion based a little bit. Like if you just look at something and you don't like it and you're like, well, since I don't like it, I have the right to tell this person it's not good.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, well, maybe not, because maybe you're not making it, maybe you're not in charge of it. So honestly, who cares about your opinion on
Yeah.
this? You know what I mean? Like sometimes people want to give their opinion, even though I'm like, okay, but your opinion is not going to change anything. So your opinion probably doesn't matter that much in this scenario.
Yeah.
So wisdom would say to just keep your mouth shut a
Right.
little bit, whereas like rebuking usually has to do with like biblical things. Like if you see your friend lashing out in anger at someone, like that's not opinion at that point. You're their friend. You'd be like, hey, so probably
Right.
not the best move.
Right.
Maybe consider some other moves.
Right.
But you have that like godly backup versus like
Yeah.
God doesn't care if this is funny in a video versus if this is funny.
I think
Yeah.
it's crazy how, in my experience, I feel like I see more the let me just be critical versus the let me
Yeah.
tell my friend the truth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Oh,
we're
yeah.
scared to tell our friends that we love
Yeah.
the
Real
truth,
questions,
but we
yeah.
have no problem telling the stranger, oh, you
Yeah.
know what, this is wrong or this is this.
Yeah, I think we're easy. Yeah.
And I think too, if you're not able to like help someone better the thing that
With
you're
a
telling them
suggestion or
about,
something, yeah.
then I'm like, okay, so you're just
tore me
talking
apart
to talk.
too.
Like
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
just
With
you're just
nothing.
talking to hear yourself talk because
Yeah.
If you
you
can't
have
change
no
it-
stake in this. You're not going to be there to help me.
Yeah.
Like. Great, you think this is terrible? What is a better option?
Yeah.
Well, I don't have one. I don't think I need to have. Well,
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
so
Should've kept the-
if you don't have one, then we're gonna do the worst option because we
Yeah.
have to get stuff done.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think if I were to come to you and I were to say something like in my opinion I'm rebuking you, but it could accidentally be perceived as offensive, whatever. If you're able to see in my tone and in my verbiage, whatever, only things that like only a motive of literally wanting to help you, then I think it's almost impossible to be offended because all I'm doing is like genuinely nothing of my own opinions, nothing of the opinions of even other people. Like I just genuinely see something that I think is hurting you that I think could be so
Well,
much
someone
better.
can still get offended by it.
Well,
but
okay.
I feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, though, the difference is literally in the motive, right?
Yeah,
If
okay.
somebody's telling me something, if the motive seems like they just want to help build me up, I consider that rebuke. Whether they're right or wrong, because they can be wrong, I guess, in certain areas. But if it seems like it's only for their own, like with you, like, oh man, well, that's just their preference. They would like this better. Or they would whatever. And it goes back to the thing of like, well, are you the one in charge? Like, no, whatever. But if that's how I see it, then that can be, then that's, the whole thing is there's nothing but offense that can be taken from that if it's for their own motives, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah.
But if it's seemingly only to build up whatever about myself that they're critiquing,
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, well, whether they're right or wrong, it's still in good intent.
But
Okay.
it does
So I
like have
can't
a
really be
lot to
offended
do
by
with
it.
the receiver because like
Yeah.
I could, go up to Jonathan and be like, hey, that was terrible.
Yeah.
You did a terrible job.
Yeah.
You really should do better. But like because we have a relationship, I
Yeah.
don't think he'd be mad at me for too
No,
long.
exactly.
Versus if I went to another person
Yeah.
and I'd be like, hey, you're awful. You did a terrible. They would
It
be
is
crying
so
forever.
different.
So
Yeah.
then
It
it's
is so
kind of like,
different.
well, I know Jonathan or like Michael Javier. Like
Yeah.
I could go up and say something super mean to him with all terrible intentions. He would take it as
He'd find
okay.
the good in
I
it.
thanks for
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'll try to be better. Versus
Right.
I could go up to someone else, super nice, super timid,
Right.
whatever, and they could just
You're 100% right.
100% be like,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't know what you're talking about.
Right.
Yeah.
I think
It
that's
has
how
to
you
be
also
different.
know like mature believers
Yeah.
is that whenever you can go to someone and you don't have to like
Sugar
sweet
toast.
talk to them.
Yeah.
Hi, you're so beautiful. You're so
Yeah.
great. You're so whatever. Maybe you should be on time, but you're perfect. You're great. Like if you don't have to beat around
Yeah.
the bush,
Yeah.
it's really awesome.
Yeah.
I think sometimes too, when you do correct someone or you do rebuke someone, I think people just go, oh no, you're just trying to offend me. You're just trying to be critical. And I think people use that as an
Yes.
excuse to not be better. Because
Yeah.
I genuinely feel like there's a truth in every critique.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like even if they're like,
Yeah.
that person forgot their line and they tell me that and I'm like, they really did forget their line, but you don't have to bring it up, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
true. They did
Yeah.
forget it. So I think sometimes we have to kind of look at ourselves and also, okay, like, do I want to be better? Do
That's
I
what
want to
my-
be a better human being?
My dad
Yeah.
he would always say, because my dad, he's a very loud Nigerian man, and so he's very traditional, very strict in like his discipline, and so me being super like abstract creative and like, oh, I want to try this and dreaming and all that stuff and whatever, and then also being like emotional, I just remember like I would always like, he would correct me and I would just like default to crying as a kid. And
Yeah.
so he taught me, he's like, you have to learn how to manage your emotions and also realize it doesn't matter how someone is correcting you, like subside like how you feel to like hear what they're saying.
Right. That's
see
healthy.
Right,
That's good.
yeah.
So I would say like it definitely, as you mature, as I've gotten older, like anyone could like, throw whatever they have at me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I've just learned, I mean, I still get emotional about it, but like how I process or how I feel about it in the moment, like I try and like push that to the side to get like what good can
And that's
come
easier
from
said
it.
than done,
Yeah,
but it
100%.
can be done.
Still learning that.
Right. It's tough.
Super awesome. We're about to wrap everything up. Do you guys have any last words you want to share on any of the stuff that we talked about? Leave our fans with something.
You are now listening to the smooth sounds of
Smooth jazz. Well, I could just expound on a little bit something I shared earlier, just with the whole like two areas of when somebody rebukes you or whatever. So the two areas being this. So if somebody rebukes you or whatever, they have something maybe potentially offensive to say to you. Like there's only really two possibilities, but I really want to watch out for the second one I shared. So the first one is that they're incorrect, and at that point you shouldn't be concerned. You know what I mean? If you're self-aware enough to know, okay, like let's say somebody, I don't know, comes and rebukes me on like, I don't know, like the room design that we have set up at Redbug for the students, like something like that. And it's like it's their first time at church, whatever. That's a good example because honestly, in that situation, I've got my own opinion. I've got the opinion of my pastor and whoever else is involved who's actually invested here. It's like, okay, they don't really know what they're talking about. So in that situation, it's like, okay, they're just wrong. In another situation where somebody brings up something to me, if it does offend me, if it does hurt me, I feel like a lot of the times, and to watch out for this would be, more, we should definitely watch out for it when somebody comes with a rebuke and it's like a friend or a close person. If it's something that strikes a chord of offense with me, a lot of the times it's something that kind of has some truth to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of has some truth to it. So like the only reason I feel, and this is kind of
How
going back
you
to
break things up in your mind is really interesting.
it's it's
It
tormenting.
is like a big
No, that's why I need therapy.
brain.
No, but like
in a lot of compartments.
Like it's like a palace of mind.
no,
a
it's
mind
not.
Palace.
It's
Sherlock
dark.
Holmes.
It's
Yeah.
dark. No. Okay. So, but then the second part is like it's probably something that's true, and like to a degree, it could be true. So sometimes it could be maybe only a little bit true. But the point is, like, if I'm getting offended, if I'm getting hurt by something, a lot of times it's because I'm insecure in that area.
Okay.
Because if I'm 100% secure that, like, okay, let's say somebody critiques me after I did something speaking on stage, and I'm like, feel like I killed it, whatever. If they come to me with the same exact sentence, okay, the same exact verbiage like that they would use, so like, oh, blah, 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 and it stunk. But I know I did a good job, that thing's not going to really float in my mind at all. If I know that I didn't do that
Yeah,
good of a
you
job,
thought you
that
didn't do your
same
best.
exact verbiage would kill me.
Yeah.
It would
Yeah.
hurt me. It would, whatever, because I
Yeah,
know
that's
there's
true.
some truth to it. So the reason I say that is this: there's almost never ever a point to be offended, because even in offensive things, we can always take something like, why did I get offended? Let me work on that.
'Cause it's
Yeah.
real.
It can all be constructive. It can
Yeah.
all be
Yeah.
constructive
Yeah.
because there's always a small ounce of truth to it. If there weren't any truth to it, you wouldn't have been offended.
Yeah, there's
saw
truth
that.
to every critique.
I was thinking about just the conflict and confrontation thing. Like, one like tip I would give to like the pre-steps of a conflict is like just like, keep people's business between you and them. Like
That's good too.
I've heard. I remember like a couple years ago, like, just people feel the need to like pass on like so and so is talking about this, so and so is talking about that, and like just within myself, I was, I told this person, I was like, you know what, like, unless these stories start to end with like, and then I punched him in the face because you're my best friend, like, unless they end like that, I don't really want to hear them anymore, because I there's nothing I can do, and
Yeah.
it's just hurting my feelings. And then I also don't understand why you're there hearing this stuff and you're not saying anything, you're just reporting it back to me. And like that has honestly helped. So like it's probably been like 10 years now that I've kind of put that out as my vibe. So
Yeah. People
I don't
bring that to
constantly
you.
have people coming to me being like,
Yeah.
well, so and so said this about you, well, so and so said this about you, and I'm fine with that. Like
Yeah.
the idea that maybe there's people that don't like you or me or whatever, I'm okay with that. because this is the world we live in, you know, but like I don't crave that juicy gossip about myself that sometimes people crave, that like, oh, I want to know if someone's talking about me. I'm like, honestly, I don't want to know if someone's talking about me, because it doesn't, because what's it gonna do? It's really a reflection on them. It's not a reflection on me, and it's just gonna make me sad. And then it's gonna bring one more thing that I have to confront, and I hate confrontation.
And it's like, so I say something because I know, but I know, and then it's like, you know what?
And at the end of the day, like, if people, you know, if people are talking about you, like, I don't know. It's in me, like, you gotta just be honest and be like, well, I've probably said some things about them that in a moment of anger or whatever that I wouldn't want them to know, because I didn't really mean that about them.
That's
and you
like
can
biblical.
assume the
That's
best.
Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, I know. That's my one of my favorite verses.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm like, oh my gosh, Solomon he knew about gossip.
Yeah, like we do that all the time. We gotta accept it about ourselves. One more thing that we are going to do. Who's first? And we're going to give it to Kia. We have to call it, though. We are going to call what this fortune means.
Okay. Do we all have to have a different answer?
No. Okay. Whatever's on your heart. Go for it.
I think this has to do
You're
with...
pregnant.
Whoa.
I think it has to do
Would it be
with...
awesome if that was it? We would tell on the...
I think it has to do with finding peace.
And you guys.
What'd you say?
Finding peace.
It has to do with finding peace.
Yeah, her little fortune thing. It'll tell. It's gonna. I'm just trying to guess accurately.
Weird.
A lot of them say stuff like that.
We believe in God, Jonathan.
These cookies don't.
I think this has to do with like yours and Gio's future for the next 6 months. Like the journey that God has you on.
I mean, it's about advice, like how you give advice or something. I don't know. You know how to be like, wise rebuke is, you know what I'm saying? Like it's gonna be something like
something about advice.
You know, Confucius
all
statement.
Right, so we're not all on
this
the same page here, right? So
I don't understand what you mean.
Well, a lot of them say that. I'm just trying to guess correctly.
No, that's not the point.
All right. So let me redo mine.
We're gonna take you out.
No, let me redo it.
Jonathan.
Have you ever had a fortune cookie?
It has to do with.
Next time we're just gonna pick one person.
Starting a family.
Okay, so then family. Yours and Gio's future.
No, but you weren't serious
Same
about
thing.
it.
Now we're all family.
Fame and fortune are coming your way.
Oh, you're welcome.
My baby's gonna be a celebrity, and it's gonna be my retirement plan.
Bieber.
Yep, he's gonna meet Justin Bieber, and I'm gonna meet Justin Bieber.
Justin Baby.
In the next 6 months, let's go. You heard it first here. Thank you so much for coming to the VoiceCast. Can't wait until our next conversation.
Oh yes.
See you guys then.
See you later.
Thank you for checking out the VoiceCast, Summer Conversations. Tune in next time for episode 2.